Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 103, in which I'm going to tell you the story about BossUp and going to LA. But first, some announcements. You may notice that I have a little snarfle in my voice. It is because I got on a plane and went to LA, and then I got on another plane, and I came home, and that gave me the snarfles. And I can't help, it always sucks to have a little bit of a cold, but also I feel a kind of a kinship because I know so many people all over the world, not all over the world, the people that are experiencing the seasons change, which, I guess is happening pretty much all over the world, but a lot of people get sick when that happens. So I'm like, well, I'm just participating in this collective human experience of schnarfles. And that's okay. It'll pass. Announcement number 2. Next weekend on oh my God, I'm leaving all of this in. Next weekend, October 26th and 27th, I'll be at Monarca in Flight in Washington, D.C. area to deliver a performance-intensive workshop weekend with a lot of people that I just really cannot wait to either meet in person for the first time or see again in person for the first time. Or something this time. Wow, we are really on a roll today, my friends. I am offering 4 different workshops, lengthy ones, and they're all deep dives into one subject or another. I will put a link in the show notes. If you're around the area or in driving distance, I would love to meet you. And if you're wondering if these workshops are a good fit for you or not, just send me a message. It is so easy to find me, and I would love to answer your questions about it and tell you if I think it's a good fit or not. Last announcement, apparently I have learned that it's Infant Loss Awareness Week. In fact, all of October is like baby loss awareness. I didn't know that, and I've lost 3 babies, so don't feel bad. I was talking to my friend who has also lost a baby, and he was like, do you think Awareness Weeks do any good? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't even aware of it, and it's not like I wasn't aware that it was a thing because I've lived through it. And we came to the conclusion that yes, they are good because they might help some people, and we hope that they do. The reason that I'm bringing this up on the podcast is because it's part of my life, a big part of my life. This is a thing that happened to me that changed me forever, and it was years long. And I make some artwork about it, and I drop it into conversation every once in a while, but the reason that I wanted to bring it up here is to say that this is a part of so many people's lives. If it has happened to you and you feel like you can't talk to anyone about it because it makes everyone so sad and uncomfortable, you can talk to me about it. You can just mention it in a conversation. It can just be a thing that we talk about sometimes. It's fine. I completely understand why people don't want to bring it up. Like, they don't want to bring it up to me. And when they do, they apologize for it. Like, it just comes up in conversation. They're like, oh, I'm sorry. Are you okay? I'm like, yes, actually, thank you for bringing it up. Thank you for acknowledging that this part of my life happened and that you were there for it and that you noticed. It's kind of a relief, actually, to have some air around the subject. I wrote about this in a Patreon post this morning. This morning being Tuesday. This episode comes out on Wednesday, October 16th. So if you're a patron, you've got something juicy on the table waiting for you. And a video. It's not just words. So that's my invitation. If this has happened to you, and even if it hasn't, you can talk to me about it. You can ask questions. You can tell me your story. I'm here for it. It's part of our lives, so let's let it be part of life and not something that needs to be shoved into the back of the closet. Shall we? I think we shall. And as a side note, I did record an episode about active grief and what you can expect from it and how to sort of negotiate and navigate active grief. So if you are going through it for any reason, then I will put that link in the show notes as well. And I hope that it helps. So I just wanted to share the experience of this past weekend where I flew to Redondo Beach, California, which is just south of Santa Monica, and did so at the behest of one of my personal heroes, Dr. Shante Cofield, aka the Movement Maestro, and Jill Fitt. They put on a conference every other year called BossUp for online female entrepreneurs. And they invited me to be one of 3 speakers. I, of course, said yes immediately, and this was not quite a year ago, but very on brand for Maestro to give me so much time ahead so that I could make arrangements like a grown-up and be ready for it in my life, which I was. So I didn't over-prepare ahead of time. Like, I prepared because that's all that you can do. And I'll just go ahead and say that again. All you can do for a thing is prepare. If you have a big event coming up, a show or whatever, all you can do is prepare and then rely on your preparation. So I prepared and oh, am I going to tell you this? Yeah, I'll tell you this. This is a dumb thing that I did, but I didn't realize that it was dumb. Okay. I put the slides together on a Saturday afternoon or something. I was like, this is the time that I have to work on this weekend. So I'll put it together on Saturday and then I'll revise it on Sunday and then it'll be all ready before I start work on Monday. So I did. And then on Saturday night, in the middle of the night, I was awakened by terrible menstrual cramps. Like, they woke me up. So I got up. I'm like, okay, Midol doesn't touch this. Ibuprofen has been useless. Hey, my mama gave me some THC gummies. And she said they were too strong for her. So she thought maybe I would want them. Maybe they could help me sleep sometimes if I had a hard time. And I had just sort of put them in my desk and forgotten about them. And my 3 a.m. brain was like, I bet that will help with my menstrual cramps. So I took half of one and I went back to sleep. My friends, I am here to tell you that those gummies were 50 fucking milligrams each of THC. I only took half of one, which is 25 milligrams. And I don't smoke pot. I have never enjoyed THC recreationally. That is like a professional level dose, so the internet tells me. I had no business taking 25 milligrams of THC at 3 a.m. So what happens? I wake up the next morning, the day that I have allotted to continue, like the one day to continue preparing my presentation for this huge event that I'm super nervous about and excited to go to. And I wake up high. Wake up still high. I'm like, this sucks. Like, not that being high sucks. I don't know. Maybe you like it, but it's never fun when you don't want to be. And I didn't want to be. I wanted to like work and focus on stuff. I was worthless all day. I kept waiting for it to wear off and it didn't. It just kept on trucking. I'm like, this is an eternal hell. Why can't I get this out of my blood chemistry? I didn't even feel normal again until around 6 p.m., which of course, 6 p.m. is the end of the day for me. Like nothing else happens after 6 p.m. And that's the story of how I lost an entire day of preparation because of a THC gummy, half of one. Moral of the story, myself and THC, we are not friends. It was very irritating at the time, but honestly, I find it pretty hilarious now, looking back on it. But anyway, luckily, I had yesterday Rachel to rely on, who had done a good job of preparing the slides and working on that presentation. And over the next couple of days before I got to LA, I was able to squirrel away enough time to review them to my satisfaction. So I knew that I had done good work, and that's what preparation does. But am I just telling you this story so that you know this happens at every level of a career? Yes, I am. That is why I'm telling you this story. And also because it's true and it happened to me. So I get to Redondo Beach and check into the hotel, which is so swanky, by the way. It's the Shad Hotel, in case you're wondering. And there are bathtubs on the freaking balcony overlooking the marina and the sunset. And you bet your ass I took a bath every single one of the 3 nights that I got to spend there. I got a super nice, warm landing from Alec. Thank you, Alec, for driving out and taking me to Pokey. I just said it again because it's a funny word. Honestly, at this point, the thing that I am avoiding saying is that I was pretty fucking terrified, right? And it's because I'm doing this at the behest of 2 personal heroes of mine who've invited me here so wonderfully to share their audience with me and to share me with their audience. And you want to do good. You want people to be like, yes, this was a good choice. Let's do that again sometime. And also, it is not at all my normal audience. My normal, most common audience is artists. And some of these women were artists and some of them weren't, but they were all entrepreneurs, and they all owned and ran their own businesses. So as having all the other little gremlin-y thoughts, you could also just summarize this as being insecure and just hoping that it lands, you know? If you're wondering, this talk was on imposter syndrome and getting out of your own way to create unabashedly. And I really don't see that much of a differentiation between creating artwork and creating offerings or courses or content. It all uses the same section of the brain. And I'm not basing that on any kind of study. I'm basing it on lived experience, having created all of the above in abundance. So at the end of the day, the preparation was done. All I could do was, enjoy myself, which is what I tell every one of my students. Like, when it comes time for you to go on stage, regardless of what you're doing, by then the preparation is done and your sole primary objective should be to enjoy yourself. That said, did I finish my breakfast that morning? No, I was a little too nervous to finish my whole breakfast, so I ate it for dinner that night. And there's something to be said for like a gifted host introducing you. Like, Shantae is so talented, and like Shantae was sort of leading the whole first day, and she's just really talented facilitator. And by the time I got up there, because my talk was one of the first things that we did, I was ready and they were ready for me. And I just got to give a shout out to Jesse. Jesse, I don't know if you even listen to this podcast, but thank you so much for your warmth. I saw him that morning and we were hugging, and he was like, "Why are you shaking?" Like, "I'm scared, Jesse." And he said, "In a room full of people who love you." And I was like, that was a nice thing to say. I wasn't assuming that. I know there are at least 3 people in the room that love me. Moral of that story, if you don't have a Jesse, get one. What I loved about presenting to a room full of people who are intimidating in one way or another is that as soon as I opened my mouth, I knew exactly what to do. And I didn't know that was going to happen. I have presented workshops hundreds of times, but this wasn't a workshop. It was a talk and to a different audience. And I was very pleased to find that as soon as I opened my damn mouth and started, it was natural like breathing. Thank you, goddess. And something about this experience that was really helpful and also pretty meta, because I was presenting on imposter syndrome and how it is not meant to be called a syndrome. It's not meant to be pathologized. It was originally coined as a phenomenon because it was being observed in high achieving women. So it's more like a very common experience of women and other marginalized people, not that all humans don't experience it. But the numbers are illuminating. And in speaking of that, like 2 days before I gave this talk, Jill Fitt, one of the hosts, had sent out this email, and the subject line of the email was "I choked," all caps. And it was about how like Jill was in a mastermind with a mentor of hers and just sort of like froze up in the room and didn't offer anything and didn't open her mouth because of imposter syndrome. And I definitely noted that email to the room in like live in front of, these 70 other women, because it was important. And it was important that she shared that. And I think it was important that I called it out. If someone who I admire so much, Jill Fitt runs a 7-figure business. She has a team of people that get their livelihoods from her. And if Jill can choke, you can choke too. And it is not a moral failing. I've also kind of been thinking about this axiom that we have culturally, which is whenever someone is sharing something with us, especially if it's something painful or challenging, so often the answer to that is to tell them, well, you're not alone. And I just started getting kind of irritated with that saying. It was like, yeah, I'm not alone in this experience, but also, yeah, I am, because it doesn't lessen any experience for me to know someone else has gone through it as well. She's like, okay, well now we're both in a shitty situation. So I had to be in my bonnet about that. But this weekend just sort of made me realize that my vitriol was misplaced. Because the point of telling someone you are not alone is not to try and lessen the discomfort that they're experiencing because of their challenges. It's just validating to know that other humans experience it too. And is it always the medicine that someone needs? No. And sometimes it's not even helpful at all to know that you're not alone. But sometimes it is. And that was the gift that Jill gave me with that email, that I choked email, and the one that I just wanted to keep sharing the love. And like right there in the room, she was like, yep. And it was hard to hit send on that email. Like, respect. Thank you, Jill. So it was a great weekend. I learned a lot. I had attended BossUp 2 years previously, and my business was not new then. It was 5 years old at that point, and now it's 7 years old. Just realizing I haven't done the math on that. Who cares? It's older. But some of the nuances of what Maestro and Jill were telling me, I wasn't really ready to implement 2 years ago, and I am now. So that was amazing. They delivered the fire as always. And the 2 other guest speakers, Dr. J. Pops and Dr. UC. I'm going to put both of their Instagrams in the show notes so that you can follow them, but you probably follow them already. But it was wonderful to meet them in person, both of whom I had followed for a long time and admired. And I got to, shake UC's hand and tell her how much joy she brought me over the pandemic with her like dancing videos and talking about sexy times. I'm like, I just love you. Thank you. And I was talking to Dr. J. Pops, Dr. Jennifer Hutton, after her presentation, which was about allyship. I'm like, that was fire. Just the way that she delivered it and the way that she set up the room to receive it was brilliant. So I was talking to her afterwards and thanking her for it. And she was so easy to speak with. And we were talking about being nervous to present what we presented. And I was like, you were nervous? And she was like, fuck yeah, I was nervous. You were nervous? And I'm like, oh yes, I was a little bit shaky that morning. And I had to point out, I'm like, Doc, I am the only guest speaker that's not a doctor here. And she was just like, oh, no, baby, that's bullshit. That don't matter at all. And I was like, oh, okay. But she like fixed me in her eyes and she's like, it doesn't matter at all. I'm like, I believe you. Thank you. But it was a beautiful room to be a part of, and I'm so grateful. And if I met you this weekend and now you're listening to this, thank you. Thank you for being so warm and such a bangarang audience and making me feel so welcome. I am looking at the time and watching the sun slide across the afternoon sky, so I'm going to wrap this up and say thank you for listening to me, and thank you for being here. If you have requests for future episodes, I'd actually really, really love to hear them, because my list of topics is now only a page and a half, and some of them, they just aren't time yet. But it's very, very welcome. Your suggestions are very, very welcome. You can reach me always on Instagram at Rachel Strickland Creative or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. This podcast is powered by Patreon. If you are a patron of mine, I want to shake you warmly by the hand, and if you'll let me, give you a squishy hug and tell you thank you so much for making this and so much more possible for me. Thank you. All right, my friends, have a great rest of the week. And in the best way possible, you're not alone. Don't go back to sleep.